What up, and welcome to Wing and a Prayer podcast, a show about Seattle Mariner baseball. I am your host, Andy Wing. A huge shout out to everyone who has listened so far. I really appreciate every single one of you, those that have reached out to me and said hi. Thank you so much. And remember, you can find this show on Amazon Music, Audible, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other places. Hit that download button, share with your friends. Let's keep growing this. On the show today, we are going to talk about the first 10 games of the season. Yes, the season is finally here. We have games to talk about, people. Anyway, I'm going to give you my high-level observations, overall feelings, and then we're going to go into some injury, team news, transactions, things like that. And then I'm going to spend some time talking about my opening day experience. Yes, opening day. It's an event. You should go. We'll talk about it. And then we're going to look at the defensive aspect of the Mariners so far, which, hasn't been great at all. And their offensive attack, if you can call it that. Then their pitching performance as well. And then lastly, of course, your favorite, Andy's rant. Anyway, let's get going. We're going to jump right into it. Thank you all for being here. Go Mariners. Let's do this. Baseball is back, and we are 10 games into the season already. Can you all believe it? I am so excited for baseball to be back. I can't believe there's games being played, actual games to talk about, and that's what we're going to spend doing today. These first 10 games for the Mariners, I can't say it any other way than just majorly disappointed. I'm an optimistic person by trade, but right now I am not feeling good. They are 4-6 through 10 games. They could easily be 3-7. If you look at some of the deep metrics, their overall expected record's about 3-7. I mean, they are not scoring runs. They're not pitching very well, and their defense is one of the sloppiest defenses I think I've seen at a Seattle Mariner baseball team in a long, long time. I was so excited for this season, excited for opening day, just had immense positive feelings about what this team could be, and they still can, but I'm here to talk about what I see right now. And in 10 games, they are majorly underperforming in all aspects of the game. Look at past Mariner baseball teams. Most of the time, we can say, hey, their offense is not doing well, but the pitching's been on point. And if they just get their offense going a little bit, they'll do well. Or the defense has saved some games for them. I can't believe this team has nothing right now. They're not hitting, striking out just as much as they were before. Their starting staff, the best in the league, quote unquote. Even I felt that way and still could be. But they are not delivering. Only 3 out of 10 starts have been a quality start. And that is just not going to cut it if this team wants to perform. The bullpen, you got a couple guys who are doing okay. But even then, they've been a little shaky at times. And just all phases of the game. And then defensively, there's booting the ball around the field. And really for the defense, it's just they're not making plays. It's not even they're making blatant errors. And we'll talk more about each one of these phases later in the show. But they're just missing plays. How many double play balls are they missing? Because they bobble the ground ball, they get the lead out, but then they're not getting that second out. And then what do you know? Next batter up, 2-run home run or a double into the gap. And so they're not giving themselves opportunities to get out of innings. They're not helping their pitchers out. And then the pitchers aren't closing the loop by closing those situations out and helping themselves out. Offensively, they haven't scored more than 5 runs in a game. Last year, I felt like their offense was anemic through 10 games, and they scored more than 5 runs, I think 3 times through 10 games and scored 11 in a game. This year, not more than 5. And the other thing, too, on the offensive side is they're not hitting home runs. Julio has yet to barrel the ball up. We'll talk more in detail about the offensive side coming up as well. But just initial observations, they are not hitting the ball. It is gotten to the point, 10 games in, where I fully expect to see them just go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, maybe they get a run. Oh, maybe they hit a home run. Maybe they do. Probably going to strike out 8 to 10 times or more. And I'm almost got to the point where I don't expect them to score, and they have to pitch amazingly well. And when they've gotten a couple really good starts, they've seemed to have won, but they're not picking each other up on the offensive side. The defensive side are pitching. And again, I am kind of shocked they're 4-6. They should be 3-7. But the good news is it's only 10 games in. If this was an NFL season, we've just completed the first game of the year. It was a disappointing blowout. We lost 27-14, but there are some good things that we can build upon. And so I guess at the end of the day, it's 10 games. If they keep playing like this, then yeah, the season is not going to go well. But their major hitters on their team have not got going yet. Julio has not hit a home run. Cal had not hit a home run. And like Haniger's hit one. They're just not hitting the ball hard yet. And you know that is going to change. These guys are professional hitters. Julio is a great hitter. He will come around. And so if I'm betting money, I'm betting on these guys turning it around. Now, is the offense going to be maybe as good as I thought? I'm kind of starting to doubt my own thoughts. So we'll see. It'll be interesting as this season goes on. But in the first 10 games, man, does it seem like a wasteland to some degree. But I believe it'll turn around. We'll just have to see. The pitching staff, it's got to get better. I mean, two rounds in for everybody, and they're seemingly just getting their feet wet with what they need to do. Inconsistency has been the key. George Kirby's been great one start, not good the next. Emerson Hancock through two starts, decent one start, terrible the next. At least the pitching staff has had a few good outings. I can't say the same for the offense. And the defense, well, they don't have a ton of errors, but they have a lot of missed plays. And I think there needs to be a new statistical category for Major League defenses, which is missed plays. We're going to dive into all of that more later in the show, but the season is a mix of 16 10-game spans, really. And a team really kind of shows who they are over 10-game periods of time, I feel like. And so they need to do a lot of 6 and 4s the rest of the way, not a lot of 4 and 6s they can afford. So we'll see if they can turn things around, get their offense going, get their pitching going. I'm optimistic about this team. I think they will turn it around going forward. They will improve. It'll take time. Maybe April won't be a great month for them, but it will get better. I believe that. How much better? We'll see. But they're going to have to play a lot better than this to really win ball games. Mariners team news and injury updates. So the Mariners starting staff is a little frail with some of the injuries and Emerson Hancock being brought up. So the Mariners brought in and signed Dallas Keuchel to a minor league contract to give a little bit more starting pitcher depth. Now, you probably all remember Dallas Keuchel when he was good, pitching for the Houston Astros from 2012 to 2018, when the Astros really turned that franchise around and ended up winning a World Series in 2017. He has not been the pitcher he was since about 2019, pitching for Atlanta, Chicago, Arizona, Texas, and Minnesota. He signed a minor league deal. He's still wanting to play and still trying to compete. And maybe he'll be able to fill a start or two, which will be a good thing because they don't really have a whole lot of extra depth. So I think this is actually a good signing to help the overall rotation depth. You know there's probably going to be another injury or two, so we'll need more starters. So it's a good thing to bring Dallas Keuchel on board. Taylor Trammell, they unfortunately had to DFA and let him go, but he was picked up on waivers by the Los Angeles Dodgers, which I'm really happy for Taylor. He was a good player, but not quite good enough to really make the squad year in and year out. Just it seemed like when he got his chance in the major leagues, it didn't quite work out for him. Good minor league hitter, just not quite what the Mariners needed to really move forward. But I hope he gets a good chance with the Dodgers. I hope he succeeds. I wish him the best. And good luck to you, Taylor Trammell. Sam Haggerty is back from his non-medical issue that he had, and he's doing a minor league rehab assignment right now. And hopefully he'll be back with the team soon and maybe give the team a little bit of extra life on the base paths and in the field defensively. I'm excited to get him back and hopefully just help the team out. Now, have you seen the impacts that losing one of your starting pitchers like Brian Wu has now had? Emerson Hancock filled in nicely for the first game, but the second game kind of showed his lack of experience and ability at times to locate pitches. And now we're all saying to ourselves, Brian Wu, come back as quick as you can. Please, please, please. Because we just need a little more consistency on the back end of that rotation. And so when you see these injuries take place, it has a strong impact on your team. But good news is Brian Wu has begun playing catch. He's slowly working back up to full speed. No setbacks so far, but his timetable of return is a little bit, to be determined. And the other aspect of our pitching is the bullpen. The bullpen, we've got two guys at the back end of the bullpen with Munoz and Stanek that are flamethrowers with good sliders that we really trust right now. And we are really feeling the effects of not having Brash or Santos in the back end of that bullpen. Good news is for Matt Brash, he's begun throwing his sliders in bullpen sessions, continues to increase his intensity, no setbacks. Hopefully late April he'll come back. Gregory Santos had a lat issue, and the latest MRI actually came back good, and which is a good thing, and he's still recovering, taking it slow. Timetable still to be determined, but it's progressing, no further setbacks, which we're excited to see. So that's the latest on the injuries, news, and updates. More to come. They're starting to make a few more moves out there, I think, as we're 10 games in now, and so a lot more information to come now that we're here in the season. Opening day at the ballpark is absolutely one of the coolest experiences you can do if you are a baseball fan. Have you done it before? Have you been? Have you been to a Mariner game? Maybe you've been to a mid-season Tuesday night game because there weren't very many fans. Maybe you've been to a weekend game when the sun's out in the summertime. But have you been to opening day? Opening day is a special, special event, and I'm going to talk you a little bit about my experience and why you should do it if you haven't yet. Baseball season at the beginning is full of hope, full of excitement. We've just followed the team to spring training, seen them get ready and get prepared and play some warm-up games. And as we get closer to the end of spring training, you're like, okay, this is not for real, but it's going to be for real soon. And so when opening day finally arrives, it's just full of excitement of anything's possible. Every team is 0-0. Even if your team's supposed to be bad, you can win that game. Even if you're supposed to be good, you need to want to start off hot. And so just watching the game is exciting, but going to the ballpark is another experience. And I was blessed enough to go this year, and what a special night it really was. No matter the result of the game, it's just a great overall event. Getting to the game on opening day can be a little bit of a challenge. I've been to many of 45,000 seat sellout games at T-Mobile Park, and parking can be really expensive, or you can find that if you don't get down there early, you can't find any, or you have to park a mile away and still spend a lot of money. And so I decided to take the light rail. I live pretty far north of the stadium, and I parked at Northgate lot and jumped on the light rail and rode that down into the city. Overall, I really like that experience, but I made the fatal mistake of jumping in a middle car that just was there, and everybody wanted to be in the middle car. And by the end of it, I had no personal space whatsoever. So pro tip, if you ride the light rail, get an end car, the very end or the very front, most likely the very end, because less people go down there and they're typically less jam-packed for a big event like that. Either way, I didn't pay very much money to park, caught the light rail down, and we were dropped us out right in front of the stadium, just walked across the street, up and around the track, and there we were, standing right before the field. And as we went to scan our ticket and go through security, you can just feel the energy in the stadium. You can feel the energy of the people in line with all their hats and their jerseys. And as we get through security, you walk up the steps and you get to the top, and you can see the green grass for the first time. As for me, it literally makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I get a tingling feeling, and I'm just beyond thrilled and excited that I'm here for it live in person. Opening day baseball, baby. Here we are. So that's how I feel when I'm there, and it's just different. I always feel excited when I'm at the ballpark in general, but it's just different when you're there for the first game. It's just a lot of awe and wonder, and wondering what's going to be and thinking about it, and then being able to be there is just a really special thing. And it doesn't matter when you're there how much you paid for your ticket or how little you paid for your ticket. You're at the ballpark. You're there to see baseball. It's the first game of the year. It's awesome. Once we got into the stadium, saw the field, we started hunting for something to eat. Now, the Mariners have done an excellent job of giving so many different food options and ways to buy your food. The walk-off food options where you can just scan your card, walk in, grab your peanuts, grab a burger, a hot dog, and many other assortment of foods that they have there is like the most genius idea they have come up with, because you don't have to wait in line. You just scan your card, walk in, grab whatever you want, and then you literally just walk out and you get like texted or emailed a receipt if you want that, and it just charges your card automatically. It's kind of creepy, but it's a super convenient, especially when you're wanting to get food quickly and you don't want to wait in line. Some of these lines are ridiculous, and to be able to grab something at the walk-off place and then just go to your seat is incredible. And of course, this season they promoted a new sandwich called the Double Mitchwich. If you haven't heard, the Double Mitchwich is a sandwich, half of it Mitch Garver's favorite sandwich, and the other half is Mitch Haniger's favorite sandwich, combined together for the Double Mitchwich. Well, I hunted for one of those right when I got into the ballpark. It was 5:30 p.m., and we got there early so we could get food and get all settled before the festivities started. And I walked around, and I didn't really know where to find one, so I ended up Googling it on my phone and found it was in one of the walk-off markets. And I'm like, perfect. And I was right next to where it was at. I walk in at 5:40 p.m., and it's sold out. And I was like really frustrated. And I even asked the guy behind the counter or wherever they were putting them in, is it really sold out? And he's like, yeah. Or he didn't really know what to tell me. And I looked at my buddy, and I'm like, well, there's certain things that even though it's the first game of the year, they're still trying to get sorted out. But I mean, come on, like plan. And I was really frustrated. I'm like, Mariners, you got to plan better. Like, no, this is coming. You promoted this. Like some of the radio stations, Brock and Salk, have been talking about it. And so I was excited about it. Mitch Haniger even posted on his Instagram stories about it. And I'm like, you best know I'm going to be getting one of them when I go to the game. And I couldn't get one. Now, I found out later that other people were doing the same thing, waiting around for one around the same time I was, and they just hadn't brought them out yet, and they ended up bringing them out at like 6:15, and they didn't last long, only until about the second inning, but I was just too early, I guess, which I don't really understand that either. So, Mariners, if any of you listen to this, which I hope you do, can you just plan a little bit better for people like me that get there early and want a good sandwich like the Double Mitchwich? Can you hook me up with that? Come on. So just plan. Take care of it. Get better. Anyway, but the food overall at the stadium has been top notch. Every time I go to the ballpark, I end up just most of the time wanting to eat there, because you can get anything from just a junior Mariner dog or a value popcorn to Moto Pizza to Salt and Straw, Edgar's Cantina, Holy Smoke Barbecue, Ballard Pizza, and the list goes on and on. They've got great food options, and they improve it every single year. So it becomes a really almost like a dining food experience at times while at the baseball game, which is always really nice. And one of my favorites is like the nachos in the helmet, the baseball helmet, which is like the coolest thing. So that's one of my go-tos when I go there, is getting the ice cream or the nachos in the helmet. So tell me, what's your favorite food thing? If you know me or you find me on social media, tell me when you see me and we talk, what's your favorite thing to get at the ballpark? Just some peanuts, a beer, a soda, a hot dog. What's your thing? What's your go-to? From there, we got our food. We walked around the park a little bit, checked out the scene, everything going on. And just if you've never been to opening day, the ballpark is completely decked out. They've got ribbons all over the place. They've got the opening day painted on the first and third base side. And they're just getting ready for all the festivities. So right around 6:30 is when they started all of the major festivities. And it gave us a chance to go get our food, sit down, eat our food, and then when the festivities started, we were just in our seats ready to go and watch. And they do a great job. I mean, some of the updates in the stadium, from the lights and the scoreboards, they've done a fantastic job of giving modern technology. And so all of the lights and all of the scoreboards, even along the under parts of the upper deck and the left field above the bullpen scoreboard and the main one in center field, they all work in conjunction. So they did this awesome video montage, but it all just kind of, all the graphics work together and the lights kind of flicker on and off, and just makes it a great scene. They do a great job of just pumping you up, getting you ready for the season, looking back at last year and getting us ready, getting us going. And then they bring out the player one by one through a line of season ticket holders that are high-fiving. And, JP came out first, and he had the big gold trident, and he thrust it into the air, and which was awesome and just exciting. And then each player comes out. One of the things that was cool, Julio's a superstar, and when he came out, he got a huge ovation. But Mitch Haniger returned to the Mariners in his first game back, and he almost got just as big of an ovation as Julio got, and the fans were just excited to see Mitch Haniger back. So, Mitch, I hope you enjoyed that and just felt the love of the stadium. And then all the other players come in, and everybody cheers, and they all line up, introduce all the starters, and it's really exciting, and everybody's getting into it, and kind of all this anticipation. It's a lot of pomp and circumstance, but it's really cool. It's unlike any other game. They don't do this for any other game at all, just this opening day only. After that, too, they gave out some awards. Julio won a Silver Slugger, so they handed that out. And then after all of that, Nelson Cruz, former Mariner superstar, came out and threw out the ceremonial first pitch of the game to none other than Felix Hernandez. Those two are buddies, go back a long time. And after he threw the pitch, the Mariners then brought out a table and announced that Nelson Cruz was going to sign a one-day contract and retire as a Seattle Mariner, which I thought was awesome because Nelson Cruz played for more teams than the Mariners. I mean, he played a lot of years with Texas, played some years at Minnesota, played some even a year at Baltimore. And the fact that he wanted to retire here says a lot. I think it says his relationship with the team and his years that he had here and his memories he made. And he had some of his best years in Seattle. And so I thought that was a really cool, special moment for them to do it right there on the field. And then, after that, the game gets going. Now, the game, they did not play well. They ended up losing the game 6-4. But some exciting moments. Mitch Haniger, in his second at-bat, hits a 2-run home run to right field. Just a line drive out of the ballpark. And the place went absolutely nuts. And even though they didn't win the game, having some exciting moments where 45,000 people are just stand up and cheer and are going ballistic and just going nuts. You're high-fiving everybody else around you and just like, yeah, let's go. That was awesome. Just love being in that environment. Baseball is my favorite sport when the crowd is packed, engaged in the game, on top of every pitch, and that's what it's like on opening day. Dylan Moore later in the game hits a 2-run pinch hit home run, gets us within 1 run, and everybody, again, going nuts. And so on the edge of your seat, ended up losing, but overall, opening day is just a special experience that if you haven't gone before, maybe you go to a lot of games even, but you just haven't gone to opening day. Too expensive. The parking's ridiculous, but it's worth it. You need to go at least one time. There's alternative ways to get to the stadium through a light rail, or if people live on the other side in the peninsula, there's the ferries that you can take. Just find a way to get to opening day next year. You can even go get a bleacher seat and go stand out in the pen and not pay quite as much. So there's alternative ways to enjoy the experience, but I want to tell you a little bit about my experience and why I think you should also take part in opening day. The defense, or should I say the defensive struggles. Before the year started, there was a lot of talk about how this team was going to sacrifice some of its defensive capabilities for some of the offensive talent they've brought in. We all thought, okay, that's fine, no worries. As long as they hit and score runs, won't even hardly notice it. Well, we've noticed it. 10 games in, they look like one of the worst defensive teams in the league. But if you look at a simple statistics like errors or fielding percentage, you'd actually look at them and go, oh, they're pretty good because they're like 7th in errors and they're above average in their overall fielding percentage. But that does not tell the story. You have to look a little bit deeper. And that's what we do on this show. We look a little bit deeper to see what the true story is. Now, you can look at different websites, and I've talked a little bit about defensive statistics. You can look at a few different websites to get an idea of kind of where the team is at. One of the sites I really like is Fangraphs. They do an excellent job of giving you the data behind what is really going on with the team. One of the statistics they have that I've talked a little bit about is called defensive runs saved. And it kind of measures the overall capability of making the extra play, limiting errors, making the capable plays, turning double plays, all of those factors that lead into how a team is playing defensively. And the Mariners are a -10. That's 28th in baseball. And simply put, if you're 0, you're average. If you're -5, you're below average. -10 is poor. And so far, based on that statistic, they are poor. And you look at, they have different ratings too, like outfield arm rating is a -1, which is tied for last. And then plus minus runs saved above average, they're not -5, 25th in Major League Baseball. You don't have to fully understand all of those stats. Just know all of the major statistics in the category under DRS, they are last or in the bottom 5%. And so that gives us the real story. Like, are they making the extra play? And when you watch the games, what I've personally seen is that they fumble the ball at times where they don't quite make that capable play. Like a hard ground ball to shortstop, and they bobble it, and they can't make the double play. They get the lead out, but they don't get the second out. Maybe they have a overthrow from the catcher in the center field where the runner doesn't get that extra base, but it's not even close to getting the guy out. Or a hard ground ball that the infielder misses, and the scorekeeper could give him an error, but could give the hitter a hit, and they gave the hitter a hit. Doesn't give him an error, but it's probably a play they should have made. Even Julio, he's a great defensive center fielder. He had a ball that went for a home run where he took an improper route to the ball, jumped up, and hit off his glove and went over the fence. Now, was that a tough play? Absolutely. But I guarantee if you ask him, he probably feels like he should have made that play. And so those are just little things that pop up along the way that instead of being a home run, it could have easily been an out. And now you're talking about him making 2 fantastic plays in the game instead of the other team scoring a run. They had a game that was the last game in the Cleveland series. They lost 8-0, and they only had 1 error in that game. Watching the game, they had at least 8 missed plays that would have got them out of the inning or stopped the bleeding, and they gave up 8 runs that game. Had they made even 6 of the 8 plays, would they have prevented more runs from being scored? Now, they didn't score any runs in the game, so some of that doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, they have to play better defense. That game was ugly. They looked worse than some of the high school teams I've seen play. Just booting the ball, throwing it in the center field, not making plays. And it just seems like, too, their range has not been great. Balls that I see just miss and go for base hits, I wonder, would another player get to that ball and make the out? But I hope, we've got a great coach in Perry Hill. I hope over time, especially the infield, I hope over time that this improves and they get better and they clean that up, which I think they will. They're not going to be great. They just need to clean up the silly, stupid mistakes that seemingly are getting innings to last longer and hurting their pitching staff. And pitching staff relies on good defense. And with good defense, they save runs. And, man, just like in football, when you don't really think about special teams being important until it's terrible and it hurts your team. And defense is just one of those things, too. You take it for granted when it's good, but when it's bad, it's like, whoa, this is way worse and way more important than I thought it was. Moving on to the offense. So far, their offense has been abysmal. They're scoring 3 runs a game, which was up from like 2.5 after 7 games, so they've actually improved it a little bit. But that 3 runs a game for teams that have played 10 games so far, at least 10 games, is one of the worst teams in baseball. And we're going to look a little bit deeper like we do. And when we look at the big picture of the numbers, it's going to stand out why this offense is bad. So home runs, they've hit 7, which is the absolute worst in Major League Baseball for teams that have played the same amount of games they have or more. What about walks, Andy? Are they at least getting on base when they're not hitting the ball into the gaps and over the fence? No, they're not. They're like 4th worst in Major League Baseball. Actually, 2nd, tied for 2nd. Well, surely they aren't striking out a lot, right? No, actually, they're the 4th worst strikeout team in all of baseball. And it's disappointing that they're high in strikeouts because this team was supposed to put the ball in play more, have less strikeouts and more contact. We gave up guys with power to have the ability to put the ball in play and move runners along. Well, I don't know if guys aren't just buying in or what's going on, but that is not happening. It looks like guys are swinging for the fences. The problem is we're not hitting home runs. So if you're going to strike out a lot, you need to have power. We're not doing either of those things. We're striking out a lot and not producing power and not getting on base with walks. And it rely on a bunch of singles. Now, we're getting some singles every once in a while, but that is just not a recipe for continued success. You got to get a walk, a single, a double, and a home run. Like, those are the things you got to combine together to get runs in games, and we're just not doing it right now. Now, I'm going to highlight 3 players that have some concern for me 10 games in. The first is Dom Canzone. Now, his glove does not help his bat whatsoever so far. On opening day, he had a play that a ball down the left field line and toward the corner. He got to it really lazily, threw a soft, lazy throw into the cutoff, and the runner made it all the way around to third for a triple. You do not see triples on balls down the left field line. It's the shortest throw to third base, therefore the runner typically doesn't make it that far. You see it happen sometimes in the right center field gap or the right field line because it's such a long throw, but not down the left field line. So if that happens, it's on the left fielder. It cannot happen, and we saw that. But his bat also, now he's hit a second home run, and he leads the team in home runs. He's got 5 RBIs. He's actually on pace to hit 32 home runs and 80 RBIs. So I'm actually kind of changing my tune here a little bit from when I first started writing and working on this, but he still strikes out a lot. He's 4 for 23 on the season. 2 of those hits home runs. He's got a 39% K rate, but he has some power at the plate, and he looks like he's maybe getting a little hotter, but so far it's just not doing good enough. He needs to put the ball in play more and strike out less. Sometimes he just looks overworked and overmatched. So, Dom Canzone, keep your eye on him. I think he's starting to get a little bit better, so hopefully he comes out of it, but I'm a little bit concerned about him to start. Next is Jorge Polanco. I know every single one of us, when we traded for the next second baseman, are like, great. Did you see how the last 2 performed? And so far, unfortunately, Jorge Polanco is not doing much better. He's 7 for 38, like a 180 average. He's got 1 home run. He did get a home run in the Milwaukee series, but he struck out 14 times. He's only walked 2 times, 34% strikeout rate, and it just hasn't quite been what we hoped for. Now, sometimes he is hitting the ball hard and he's just getting out when he's hitting the ball hard, but too many strikeouts. Just needs to pick up that game, needs to get his average up, needs to get his OPS up, hitting the ball out of the ballpark, hitting some doubles. Hopefully it comes around, but I have not seen it here in Seattle, so I'm a little more skeptical of Jorge Polanco. The last one is kind of a surprising one for me, the way his season has started, and that's J.P. Crawford. J.P. is the leadoff guy. He's meant to get on base. Last year, he had over 90 walks, led the American League. And it's not just his 5 for 39 and not getting hits. He has 1 home run, 3 RBI, but he only has 2 walks. If you extrapolate out 2 walks through 10 games and you put a pace, that's 32 walks for the season. So he is not taking pitches the way he has, and maybe teams are pitching him more aggressively this year, but he is not walking in the same rate that he did. And it will be interesting to see how that shapes out the rest of the season. He needs to start hitting better, hitting for more doubles, getting on base. But his big part of his game is his walking ability, and he's just not showing that right now. So he needs to improve. And so J.P. Crawford, his glove's pretty good, but he just needs to get his bat going. They really got to get him going. So hopefully here soon he gets it turned around and gets going. And I know there's other guys out there that aren't performing well either, but those are the 3 that have kind of stuck out in my brain who are underperforming over expectations and they need to really turn it around. Another observation I kind of have of the offense is it seems like the luck factor, when you're not doing well, you know, it said in life you make your own luck. And when they're not doing well, man, they are unlucky. So when they do hit the ball hard, it seems like it's right at somebody and they catch it. And so it seemed like over and over again, it's line drive after line drive that's hit right at somebody when they actually put good wood on the ball. Another thing, too, is Julio Rodriguez is off to a slow start. And it seems like first 2 years he's gotten off to a slow start. It's no different this year. I know he'll turn it around, but he has not hit a home run. He has not even gotten a barrel sweet spot hit yet. Now, some of his exit velocity has been pretty high, but his overall exit velocity is way down below his average. And I know he'll start improving there, but just keep an eye on Julio. Keep an eye to see when he hits his first home run. I think he'll start taking off. With all the offensive woes, though, there have been some bright spots on the team. Here are the three players that have stuck out to me from a positive offensive standpoint. First is Mitch Haniger. Mitch Haniger came back after signing a 3-year deal with the San Francisco Giants via trade this offseason. He had a pretty horrible season in San Francisco last year, only playing in about 60 games, hit about 209, not many home runs or RBIs, and looking to really bounce back. And so far he has. Through 10 games, he's 290 average, 9 for 31, 2 doubles, a home run, and 4 RBI. And for a guy that's in his early 30s now and not quite sure what production you're going to get, he has performed well. He had a home run in his first game, hasn't hit one since, but he's been hitting the ball hard, and I like what I see. I like his approach. I like how he attacks the baseball, and so I'm excited to see what he does the rest of the year. An unsung hero of an offensive player this year so far is Josh Rojas. He doesn't get to play every day. He's a platoon third baseman with Luis Urias. But he's 7 for 17, a 412 of average, a double, 3 RBIs, and only 4 strikeouts. That guy is hitting the ball hard sometimes. Sometimes he's just poking his bat out there and getting a bloop base hit the other way. But he's putting the bat on the ball. He's putting the ball in play, and he's getting rewarded for it. So he does have a little bit of the luck factor going for him. And so I'm really excited. I hope he actually gets a little bit more playing time. Doesn't really have pop on his bat. Doesn't hit a lot of home runs. But so far, I like what I see. I like what he's doing in the games. I like how he's attacking the ball and his approach at the plate. Ty France. Ty France, we saw, went to Driveline this offseason, worked on his game. He lost weight, got in better shape. And so far, it's showing. He doesn't have a lot of power, which I still don't really understand how a guy that strong doesn't have a lot of power. But he's 8 for 25. He started off with a 320 average with a double, only 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. The guy's putting the ball in play. He's going the other way consistently too, which is great to see, and that's kind of the old Ty France. And so it's seemingly so far Driveline's working. He's putting the ball in play, taking advantage of his opportunities. He's not even hitting the top of the lineup with a lot of pressure. He's hitting 7th or 8th. And so I really love what Ty is doing. And in exciting news, he took about 3 or 4 days off because he had his first baby with his wife, which is really exciting and super happy for you, Ty. Now come back and have a monster season. Last year, the Mariners scored 758 runs, which is equivalent to 4.67 runs per game. So far, they're scoring 3. Now that will get better. They'll score more runs. And so I have faith that the offense will get better, but I'm a little unsure how much better. So they need to get up to 4.5 runs a game for sure. Will they? We'll see. On to the pitching staff. Before this year started, I myself talked about how great this pitching staff was and that the rotation could be the best in the league. Well, after 2 turns in the rotation each, that is not the case. 10 starts, 3 of them have been quality starts, which a quality start is 6 innings or more with 3 earned runs or less. And they've only been able to manage that 3 times. Now, they have gotten a few good starts from Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, and George Kirby, but the consistency just has not been there. We're going to look at each pitcher, kind of what we've seen so far. We'll take a look at the bullpen and kind of some other things that we see along the way. Luis Castillo, he has not been sharp. 2 starts, 0-2, 6.75 ERA, 1.75 whip, which is walks plus hits per innings pitched. That is equivalent to 13.5 hits per 9 innings pitched, and that is not a recipe for success. What I've kind of seen from Castillo so far is he just hasn't been overly sharp. He's not quite hitting the edges, or if he is, he does it for a couple innings, and he has 1 inning where he just leaves everything over the middle of the plate. I've also seen a little bit where he's getting kind of bad luck in his second start. He had a runner on first with a 1-2 count at the plate, throws a changeup down below the zone. The guy swings at it, line drives a hard base hit on a ball that you wouldn't expect the guy to hit hard, and then the right fielder makes an error. The runner from first scores. The guy that hit the base hit ends up at second base. The next batter comes up to the plate, and he throws a fastball in off the plate 2 inches inside at 97 miles an hour. A good pitch, but the batter turns on it and yanks it for a 2-run home run. And I don't know. Sometimes I look at those situations just like, what are you going to do? You throw pretty good pitches, and you got beat with the ball put in play, and it gets a base hit. Next one's a home run. The right fielder makes a misstep. Error. It just kind of compounds on itself. So has he been super sharp? No, but hopefully that straightens itself out. But so far, it's just not consistent. But when you have an ace on the staff, he's paid like it. He's a number one guy. He needs to pitch better. He needs to have elite command. So I expect that to get better, but he needs to show it too. George Kirby, in his first start, was electric. 6.2 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, and was just dominant. And so after that start, a lot of us fans, and myself included, were like, okay, he's the ace. He's the lights out guy. Well, in his second start, he went 3 innings, 10 hits, 8 runs. Now, that's the game where they lost 8-0. His defense didn't help him at all, but he still gave up 10 hits. I don't care how bad your defense is. If you give up 10 hits, you're going to score. You're going to give up runs, and you're not pitching very well. He was still hit really hard, and so consistency there too. I haven't really seen George get hit that hard, really. So I hope that doesn't continue to happen. But it's just consistency one start to the next. Logan Gilbert has stepped up this year. His first start, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. Just dominant performance. His second start, not as good. He gave up 4 runs, three home runs, but he only gave up 4 hits. He kind of got hit with the solo home run bug, but he still carried his team and gave them a chance to win the second start that he had. I am really impressed with what Logan Gilbert is doing, and I'm excited to see where he goes and what his next start is like. Bryce Miller, same theme of inconsistency. First game, 5-inning pitch, 4 earned runs, 6 hits, just had 1 bad inning that kind of blew up on him. His second start, though, this week against the Milwaukee Brewers, lights out. 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, only get through like 70 pitches, and was just lights out. Great command. His new splitter was just electric, falling off the table. Guys could not hit the ball. So good to see the inconsistency go the right way, going from a bad start to a poor start. And then lastly, Emerson Hancock. His first start was solid. He gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. Honestly, one of the runs could have been saved, so he maybe gives up 2. All right, cool. Good job. Only thing is, when I watch him pitch, he doesn't throw really hard, 92, 93. His location, okay. And so his next start against the Brewers just gets absolutely lit up for 8 runs, and just the whole time he was not fooling anyone. They were hitting him hard left and right and just getting a hold of everything. And it was a day where they needed him to go longer because they were having some bullpen problems, and he just couldn't deliver. And so, he's a rookie. He's still learning. It's kind of expected, and hopefully he'll bounce back, but we really need Brian Wu back. Give Emerson Hancock some little more time in the minors. The biggest problem in the bullpen is they're missing 2 of their top relievers right now. They have strong leverage arms with Andres Munoz, Ryan Stanek, and Gabe Spire, who they're doing pretty well, other than the fact that Munoz had a non-save opportunity. He walked 4 guys and walked in the winning run. Why is it that when a closer comes in a non-save situation, it all falls apart? It just seems like over and over again, when the game's not in the line in a save situation, the closing pitcher does not do well, and that's what happened to Munoz. Other than that, though, he's done well. He came back the next night and got 3 outs for the save and did really well. It just happens sometimes where pitchers have bad games, but their end of the game leverage arms have been great. Question marks: Cody Bolton, Trent Thornton, Austin Voth. They just not doing as well as the team had hoped for. The team has done a great job of developing talent, but so far those guys have not. They're big question marks when they come into the game, so they really need those Brash and Santos to come back and be that stability in that bullpen. This pitching staff really needs to step up. Through 10 games, they've given up 10 more runs than they did last year through the first 10 games, and that is not acceptable. I don't care what the offense is doing or what your defense is doing. You need to do better on the mound to get outs, strike guys out, limit walks, and shut down the other team. We have the talent. We should be able to execute, and they need to execute better. This pitching staff really needs to perform for them to win games. They got to do better. And now it's time for another episode of Andy's Rant. What is bothering me this time? Well, it's early, Andy. It's early. Calm down. It's early. It's fine. They'll be just fine. It's early. Guess what? It may be early, but all these games matter. Every single one matters. Last year, they fell short by 2 games. Honestly, just a game. And imagine if they win 1 or 2 more of the games they've lost so far this year. Every game matters. And so, yes, it's early. Yes, there's time to turn it around. But let's be realistic. What is happening right now? How are they playing? What's going on? I don't care if it's early. If I want to be upset about it, I'm going to be upset about it. If I want to be bothered by it, I'm going to be bothered by it. If I want to be happy about things, I can be happy. But it may be early, but it still matters. And they got to do better. And the whole thing of it early drives me nuts. So I get it to some degree, but we got to understand every game matters, and that's why we follow it so closely. I hope that's why you're listening to me talk about this, because we're going to follow every game closely and look at the numbers and talk about what they mean and what this team's doing. And even if they're under 500 at the end of April, it may still be early, but it all matters, and it matters for the end of the season. So if you're following along with me watching these games, it's early, but you got to pay attention. Little things matter, and little things become big things. And so if they don't improve their play, this 4-6 first 10-game start is going to turn into even worse record. So they got to get on top of these things now. I don't care that it's early. It matters. Take care of your business. Let's get better at the game. Improve on everything you've done so far, because everything is like going awry. Base running, fielding, pitching, batting. So you have plenty of time to turn it around. That's the good news of being early. Plenty of time to turn it around and get better. But these Mariners got to get better. So that's what's bugging me. The it's early crowd. I get it, but it doesn't matter. Get better. And that concludes our episode today. Thank you, everyone who listened. This is Wing and a Prayer Podcast, a show about Seattle Mariner baseball. Again, you can find us on Apple Music, Audible, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Thank you again for everyone who listened. Download that show for me. Share it with your friends. Let's keep growing this thing. Until next time.